Woo, doggy. Alright friends, so I thought it'd be fun to once again cover one of my most popular topics that I've ever had on the channel, and that is, can you burn pine? Stay tuned. So my number one video that I've ever had in 5 years on YouTube is, can you burn pine? That video got 225,000 views as of today's video, got over 1,000 comments, I think it was around 3,000 likes, and I would say the comments are pretty split. I would say somewhere around 60 to 70% agreed that you can burn pine, and probably 30 to 40% said you couldn't. So I thought it'd be a great topic to cover once again. So that video was filmed back in October of 2022, so over 3 years ago now. And at that time, we did not have AI to give us answers to these kind of questions. So let's go ahead and ask the mighty AI whether or not you can burn pine.
Let's ask the mighty AI. Please excuse my big fingers as they misspell these words. Can you burn pine in a wood stove? Yes, you can burn pine in a wood stove, but it must be properly seasoned to avoid excessive creosote buildup. Let's see that one more time. Yes, you can burn pine in a wood stove, but it must be properly seasoned / dry to avoid excessive creosote buildup.
Well, there you have it, friends. AI said pine is perfectly fine to burn. And AI referenced one of the key points that I tried hammering over and over again in that video, and that is that this type of wood is much less important than how seasoned the wood is. That is far and away the biggest mistake people make with burning wood, is, especially when it comes to softwoods, they think that softwoods don't need to be seasoned like hardwoods do. So a lot of people burn pine. Maybe they didn't prepare well enough, or they're in a rush. They try burning this freshly cut pine in their wood stove. They have all kinds of issues, not realizing that they would have the exact same issues with any other type of wood. You can't cut a tree down, split it up, and then throw it in your wood stove a week later or a month later. It just doesn't work very well. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen that video, please go check it out. I feel like it was a pretty good video, and I think a lot of people agree, hence why it was so popular, but it was also controversial in nature, which I think also helped the popularity. People love to tell you when they think you're wrong. And if you make a video, people can try to feel superior and tell you you're wrong in the comments. You're gonna get a whole lot of views. And all I was trying to do was help people at the end of the day. So another common comment I got in that video was, why would you burn pine when you have hardwoods available? I got that comment dozens and dozens of times, if not hundreds. People will go through life with their blinders on. They can't see what's going on around them. They have this very narrow tunnel vision of what's going on, and they fail to see the bigger picture, and they lack the perspective to see life through someone else's lens. In fact, let's talk about perspective a little bit. But before we talk about anything, let's put some more wood in the stove. For anyone wondering, no, this isn't pine. This is red oak. I do have hardwoods available to me, but I can see and I understand that some people across the world may not have that option. So let's talk about perspective a little bit. So with this perspective, we're going to be talking about the one and only Mount Washington. If you're not from New England, maybe you've never heard of Mount Washington, or maybe you've never been there, but Mount Washington is in New Hampshire. It's part of the White Mountain Presidential Range, and it is the tallest mountain in the Presidential Range, as well as the tallest mountain in all of the Northeast United States. Rises up about 6,288 feet. It's a real impressive place if you ever want to go check it out, and has one of the highest recorded wind speeds ever on Earth, 231 miles per hour. So for you non-Americans, that's around 370 kilometers per hour. So absolutely crazy, and the weather up there can change in the blink of an eye. So for me personally, I've been up to the top of Mount Washington 3 times in my life in the last 42 years. The first time was when I was a kid. I took up the Cog Railroad with my parents and my siblings. The second time, me and my wife actually hiked up the mountain right before we got married, and this was almost 20 years ago. So the third time was actually this past summer. We took my youngest son for his second birthday, every year we try to do a different mountain range. The first year we took them to Tennessee to the Smoky Mountains. This past summer we took them to the White Mountains, and it was a real eye-opening experience for a few people. One of those people was my daughter. She had never been up to the top of Mount Washington. She's 16 years old. You know, I kept telling her it's a whole different world up there on the top of Mount Washington than it is down here at the summit. It might be sunny and calm and everything looks beautiful. You look up at the top of this mountain and it just seems like a beautiful sight. You want to go up there and check it out. And I told her, I said, be prepared. It's going to be cold, windy, could be snowing, it could be foggy. There's a lot of different conditions up there that you're not going to expect because you're used to down here. So perspective from looking from the base up to the summit is a lot different from looking from the summit down to the base. So we go up top of Mount Washington. We took the Cog Railroad because, like I said, we had my younger son who's only 2. This is for his birthday celebration, so he's not hiking up Mount Washington at 2. I recommend anyone that wants to hike up Mount Washington to really do your homework and research, because every year they have a lot of people unprepared and need to get rescued once they get partway up the mountain or all the way up the mountain, and then they can't get back down. Maybe they didn't bring money to take the railroad down. But you really want to be prepared for this mountain because it's a real serious thing. So anyways, we got up to the top of Mount Washington, and if you've ever been there, you know that they have a conservatory with glass, kind of is a building that you can overlook and get views if you're lucky enough to get up there on a sunny day. The day I went up this last time, it was very foggy and you really couldn't see very far. However, even once you're to the top of this mountain, there's a little rock pile that's maybe 20 to 30 feet tall. So when you're standing at the base of that rock pile, you're still at the summit of the mountain. But when you go from there to the top of that rock pile, maybe like I said, 20 or 30 feet, even that little distance can be a huge difference. So me and my daughter decided to climb up to the top of this little rock pile, and my wife stayed with our son inside the conservatory. And when I tell you there was a difference between the bottom of that rock pile and the top of that rock pile 20 to 30 feet away, you just can't believe how much different it can be with that small elevation difference. One of the main reasons being when you're at the very top of that rock pile, there's absolutely nothing around you for miles, nothing to block the wind. So wind's hitting you from every different direction, and it is absolutely brutal up there. So as me and Clara were ascending up this small rock pile, I saw a mother and her young son doing their very best to try to get back down. And when I say trying, they were clinging to these rocks and bear hugging them with all their might. I looked in their eyes and they were absolutely terrified. This young man was maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere around there. He was pretty small, and the mother also wasn't very big. And they did not know what to do. The mother was absolutely scared. She couldn't do anything. Every time she tried to stand up, the winds were just relentless and they would throw her around. And the young man was obviously in the same predicament. So I thought the best thing to do was to take this young man. I scooped him up. I said, "You're all right, buddy. I got you." And I carried him back down to the rock pile. Once the mother didn't have to worry about her son, she was able to kind of slowly crawl and climb back down the mountain. But just perspective there. This young man was maybe, like I said, 7 years old, probably weighed, 50 pounds. To him, those gusts of wind were absolutely terrifying. He couldn't do anything against that strong wind. And neither could his mother, who wasn't, overly large herself. But to me, a much larger human, to these two people, yeah, the wind was scary and it was, obviously very powerful, but I wasn't in fear of being blown away or any kind of real imminent danger. So just a little perspective there from the top of that 30-foot rock pile to the bottom of the pile, perspective from the base of the mountain to the summit of the mountain. Everybody has different perspective. And the point of this whole story is perspective. Just because you live somewhere where hardwoods are readily accessible doesn't mean everyone else has access to the same hardwood supply that you do. So to kind of wrap up today's video, I'm not going to keep going into the same things over and over again I talked about in that video. If you want to see every point in more detail, please watch the video yourself. But the main takeaway is the seasoning of the wood, what moisture content it has, is absolutely the number one thing you need to be concerned yourself with. Type of wood does matter, but how seasoned the wood is the most important thing. Whether it's pine, oak, hickory, maple, locust, hedge, whatever kind of wood you're going to burn needs to be seasoned if you want it to burn properly. And that was the main takeaway. That was also a point that a lot of people missed in that video. So maybe I thought having a new video years later, maybe I'd catch some more people that didn't see the original video. If you want to see that video, check out the description of this video, and we'll see you next time.